Jason with ShoreLOC Design Group. I'm here to show you our new 18-inch SRW18HD for heavy duty. The system is 18 inches wide by 8 inches high by 12 inches deep. And what I'd like to do is show you some of the features of the block. This is a front lip system with a built-in interlock, so your setback is already built into your system. So when you're stacking it on top of each other, your setback is already created for you. Underneath are your pivot notches. This is where it connects to the top of your block, to these pivot keys here and your pivot slots, and we'll show you how that works momentarily. Our other block is what we typically start out with, is a base block, and it's got the same configuration. It's just got more surface. It's easy to start with, to get the foundations for step ups, step downs, creating steps into your walls. A lot of multi-purposes for this. For this purpose, we'll be just showing you how the features work. So we'll be starting with the serpentine wall. So we'll start out with your first course. Of course, your first course is the most important. You're always going to make sure you're level, front to back, side to side, each block, all the way down each course. So let's get started. And when we're positioning these, you'll notice with a lot of systems you may have to remove the wings for a really tight curve, a radius. In our case, you will not have to. So what you do is you just connect the fronts, slide the backs in place, and I like to keep about a ½ inch set off where this gap is right here. If you set that a ½ inch, that will keep every time. That will keep a nice consistent radius, nice clean sweeping radius. That's the best way to do it. You could also, some people will take a piece of PVC pipe, a very thin piece of PVC pipe, make a nice curve. But what I like to do is I'll take a measurement from this gap here. We're going to go with a pretty tight radius, so we're going to go just that little ½ inch gap. And we're going to continue this down. We're going to do an inside and outside curve. So all your wings interlock together. There's no reason to ever take them off unless you're really doing a real tight radius, and that's in just very rare occasions, if you're doing stairs or if you're just finishing off a wall and you need to really finish it off and set it back into the wall. But in most cases your radius is going to be wide sweeping. In this case we're going to do a pretty tight radius. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you line up the tips of your block and then measure the back of your block. We've got the first course blade. All our wings are interlocking together. As you can see, we don't have to remove the wings to do interlocking curves or inside out sorts of curves. we're getting ready to set the next course. The next course is where we start showing you how these interlocking lips work. And what we call these are pivot keys. This is a pivot slot. And you've got a pivot notch underneath it, which you connect to it. So the first pattern I'm going to show you is a half block offset. Some people call it run and bond. You take it, slide it into place, and you continue forward with your next one. What I like to do when there's a lot of curves, this is nice. It does a nice radius also, but I really like my curves to be nice and clean. So I like to do an offset of a 1/4 block. And the best way to do that is you just kind of slide it in place where this connects here. As you come around this way, you can see where the interlock connects to the. So you got your pivot key, you got your pivot notches, and your slots. So if you're doing a real tight curve, you have your choice of sliding this into the slot to move it forward without having to modify your block on top or bottom. And that's the whole idea, is not having to. And you see how that slides into place? So this will give us a nice clean surface to work with. Nice clean, keeps your set back even. What I like to do is I like to set them on top of each other, slide it into place, slide it forward, and then slide it on down into place. Make sure these are lined up. Move it forward. Still got a 1/2 inch gap right here. Set it, slide it up in place. As you can see over top of here, when I slide it down here, we've got connection all the way across. And we slide this up into the pivot key where it fits. And you see we're getting a nice clean radius. This wall is going to have a built-in setback of 6 degrees. These keys can actually be reduced down to size to where you move up the block to a 3 degrees. And that's good if you're doing steps. 6 degrees I like, but you can go up to 3 degrees with this. Slide it in place. As you can see, it lines up pretty good. Second course laid in. We did not lay any material in the cores. We usually use a 57 stone. A little bit of fines, very little bit of fines. We wanted to be able to drain through the front of the block and out through any kind of drainage system you have. We're going to start with the next course. As you can tell, there's no clamps, no pins required in this system. It's a frontal lip system. Everything interlocks together, nice and tight. So you don't have to worry about pins not being added, any clamps or clips that you need to run out of. What we have is here, and then start laying the next course. And we're going to do the same set, offset, 1/4 offset, and we'll start it. Again, you're just going to set it, move it forward. Make sure you can pivot right into place there. Move it up, tied up against it. Up to this key right here, you want to make sure you're tied up against this key. You see how it rotates and slides in and out of there. This pivot key's touching, this pivot key's touching, so you know you're touching all the way across the front of that. So you get a nice tight fit. Everything interlocks together. Everything's offset. You don't have any running bonds. What's good about this pivot key is you can adjust it forward, or if you need to adjust it backwards a little bit to set everything nice and tight against each other. You want your lips tight together. Make sure you have a nice tight seam. Basic cap. Get a 1-inch gap there. Just set it on top. Slide it forward. Gives you enough room underneath to put lights if you want to. How you doing? So we're going to start doing the corners, and what we want to do is show you how the corners work. And when you're doing the corners, you're going to take a notch right out of this and 1.5 inches down. So we'll measure off of this. One-inch notch. And you're going to take it and flip it over. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the same spacing we have here as right here, which is 1.5 inches. Line your top front up, corners. Make sure this is nice and straight through here. That should line up with that. Take the next corner, set it on top, slide it into position. Now I'm going to slide this forward, and this is going to slide right up into that. Nice and tight. You've got your setback. start your next block. Now you're running a 90. Continue. Just like that. Slide this one all the way up. Make sure you got connection points. Get a nice clean corner, everything interlocks together. You notice that we don't have a nasty cut right here. Well, a lot of these corners do because they have a core bar running through here. Ours core bars run through the back, so we have a nice clean face. Nice clean look. Okay, so then we wrap it up for this segment. We ran 3 courses. This is serpentine wall. We showed you how the interlocking wings work together, how the pivot keys and pivot slots and notches work together, and has your built-in setback. We showed you how to do a nice curve without any modifications to the block. We showed you how to do the corner. You have 2 small cuts in the corner where you make a nice clean corner, 2 cuts on the front, sides. See underneath there where I've cut this one. Of course, we didn't show you the backfill this time. We'll do that in a later segment where we show you how to do the base course, the filling of the foundation, the compaction, and geogrid spacing and such. So we thank you for joining us today.